XPRIZE Foundation in 2013, coming from a background in aerospace and mechanical engineering fields. He worked for ESA, developing space missions, including future lunar and Mars landers. As Director of Technical Operations for the Google Lunar XPRIZE, he's responsible for the implementation of the milestone prizes, selecting and managing the panel of independent judges, and communicating technical aspects of the prize to the space industry and the general public, which pretty much covers this audience.
Great. Can you set that up for me? Thanks. So hi everyone. It's really awesome to be here. Thanks for squeezing me in at rather late notice. I discovered I was going to be in Australia visiting my family the same week as this really interesting conference, and really glad I could be here. So I do come from Sydney. I'm a Sydney-sider, Sydney University, a bit of time at UNSW towards the end. But I've been living in Los Angeles for a number of years now, working for the XPRIZE Foundation. So we are not Google. We are a non-profit that gets sponsored by these big companies, and Google is the sponsor of this particular prize. And we work under the marketing department of Google. Those folks are based up in the Google headquarters in Silicon Valley. I'm sure you're all aware of the prize. Let me just go through the top level items just for a refresher. So essentially we're looking for privately funded efforts to land on the moon, move across the surface 500 meters, and transmit back high definition video images, and do a few other small things which are in the rules. It's a $30 million prize purse. The grand prize for the first team to complete the technical requirements is $20 million. The second team to do so will get $5 million. And we also have $5 million of bonus prizes and a diversity prize up for grabs. Also, as Kyle mentioned earlier today, some of our teams did benefit from milestone prizes. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. That money accounted for $5.25 million, and it actually comes out of the winnings of those teams, those respective teams, if they go on to win the grand or second place prize. What we're trying to do with the prize is incentivize space entrepreneurs to create a new era of affordable access to the moon and beyond, and whilst also inspiring that next generation of technical folks to come and do all this interesting stuff. A little bit about the statistics of the registered teams. We have 16 around the world. Of course, Hakuto here today is one of them. We have 5 in the USA, and but the rest are pretty evenly spread around the world, no more than 1 in any other country. I just wanted to highlight the expenditure here. I'm hoping it's the red one. So this figure is cumulative across the complete set of teams since the beginning of the prize, which was back in 2007. And it's the self-reported spending by teams. So we haven't actually audited these numbers, but of this order, this is the kind of money that's already gone into all of these teams, which is quite an impressive boost to the entrepreneurial space sector. And of course, large number of person years as well. So we also are seeing the spending increase per year, and the milestone prizes also stimulate that too. Some important news recently, I'm sure most of you saw this. The Space AL, that's our Israeli team, they announced a launch contract. We verified that launch contract, so it is a genuine attempt to launch a commercial spacecraft to the moon. In fact, it will be the first commercial spacecraft to go beyond, it's the first contract for a commercial spacecraft to go beyond the geostationary belt as far as we know. They will launch on a Falcon 9, and they're actually using Spaceflight Inc. as an intermediary, and they're then co-manifesting with a whole bunch of other satellites which will be dropped off in a low Earth orbit before their spacecraft is boosted up to the lunar transfer. In fact, they're boosted to a highly elliptical orbit and released there, and then from there they do the final lunar transfer maneuver. Now, just to look at the overall timeline, with if we did not have that verified launch contract, the prize would have actually concluded here at the end of this year. So it was really critical that at least one of our teams came through with a contract. So we're really happy that that happened. What that does, it triggers an extra 2-year extension for that particular team, and also it gives all the other teams 1 more year to either complete their mission or to give us a verified launch contract, and then they would get that last year as well. So that we're now into this. We've now got this extension phase, which is great. We did run these milestone prizes during last year. Note this is not a linear scale. So the milestone prizes ran basically from late 13 into 14, and in fact the prize was announced way back here in 07. Another really big piece of news was the partnership, you could call it a sponsorship, of part-time scientists by Audi. And this is really huge, the biggest ever brand which has really associated itself with one of the XPRIZE teams across all of our prizes. And we're looking for more news like this from other teams. It will really be a great validation that the XPRIZE is a really great thing, and that Google Lunar XPRIZE is going to happen. Now, Kyle, or was it Kyle? I forget the correct pronunciation. He talked a little bit about their mission. I don't think he mentioned that they're, at least for their Google Lunar XPRIZE mission, they're currently planning to fly on the Astrobotic lander. Astrobotic is one of the American teams with strong support from Carnegie Mellon University and a lot of NASA contracts. Also a milestone prize winner. Now, Astrobotic has this model of taking a whole bunch of payloads with them to the lunar surface, and they've got a number of other payloads, including this Google Lunar XPRIZE team, which recently announced it was flying with Astrobotic too. This is Angelicum from Chile. And essentially, at the moment, there's 2 GLXP teams, but there could also be a whole bunch of other payloads, commercial, government, promotional things as part of that mission as well. Now, another big piece of news was that Lunar Express, one of our stronger teams, also based in America, moved to Florida. So they've now taken up lodgings at the Kennedy Space Center here. There's some land which the center operators are putting up for lease. And so what they're essentially going to do is their full engineering and design work will all take place over there in Florida. And it's actually right, that's that dome there. They're going to actually fly their lander just outside there. So what they're doing by that process is allowing the engineers to be really close to where the testing is taking place. And that was seen to be very useful for the Northrop Grumman Lunar Lander XPRIZE, or X-Challenge we called it then, where Armadillo and Maston both followed the same approach. You can get that rapid design cycle and really get quick feedback into the design, which is important to move things ahead. Moon Express did also announce a launch contract, but we have not yet verified that launch contract. So they currently only have until the end of 16 to do their mission. Now back to the milestone prizes a little bit. We set these up to really do 2 things: to recognize teams that have made strong technical progress. That was important because a lot of teams can go out there and make claims to doing things well and having made progress, but if you're an outsider looking in, you're an investor or you're a sponsor, how do you know which team to support? Who do you trust? So we wanted to give a little bit more emphasis to those teams which we were able to verify the technical progress of, and we used the judging panel for that. It's an independent panel of judges. And the other thing we wanted to do was put some money in their hands, and of course that's important to things like launch vehicle deposits and some of the early technical work that they're doing. So we really wanted to give that sort of leading pack a bit of a boost. And the way we did it was by firstly asking them to identify their technical risks, their key technical risks, and propose a plan for how they would test them. And that was in fact the milestone definition phase, which we ran in late 13. The teams, most of the field did submit, not all of the teams submitted, and then the judging panel down selected from those submissions to the ones which they felt were the most, let's say, well balanced. They had a good overall feasibility plan for their mission. The technical risks were well identified, and the remaining steps to retire those risks were also well identified. And so they down selected, and 11 projects were submitted. Now the projects are actually across 3 technical categories, sort of the 3 main areas of technical challenge associated with the prize. Then during 2014, Originally, it was only foreseen to last till September, but we actually gave some extensions until the end of the year. The teams went out there and did those tests, held those technical reviews, which the judging panel witnessed, and the judging panel then assessed the progress against what the team said that they were going to do. And in the end, we, XPRIZE facilitated 26 monitoring trips to 6 different countries, 22 technical reviews, and the I-type compliance plan, which was by far more complicated than any of the other stuff up there. We got to see some great hardware, many of the teams. And in the end, 9 of the projects, I mentioned there were 11 earlier on, but 9 were actually selected to be awarded, and there's the prize amounts that each team got. So Astrobotic actually won all 3 categories and got a total of 1.75 million, which was great. But also really impressive was the 3 non-US teams, so Hakuto, which is the team of iSpace, they got $500,000, but also part-time scientists and Indus. In my opinion, they became overnight success stories in their respective countries because it's really the first time that the private space industry resulted in any cash flow to local companies. So we're helping to spread the private space philosophy out of the US around the world. Now, a lot of people ask about future XPRIZEs, so I put together a few slides about that. What we're doing at the moment is preparing for a roadmap. We hope to release this sometime in the first half of next year. And essentially, we're looking at the big picture. What's going to be happening in the coming decades as humanity moves out into space? And which of those steps are technically difficult? And out of those ones, which ones are really prizable? And to be prizable is a bit of a wishy-washy concept. I can talk about that maybe later. We want to have we want to identify a series of prizes that can follow on from the Google Lunar XPRIZE and help support and accelerate, or at least keep the pace moving as we move it further into space. We did the first major sort of meeting along those lines just last week, was it? The Team Summit in Tokyo. This is an annual event, the Team Summit, where all the teams come together from all over the world. And we took advantage of having all of these minds in one place, and we ran a small workshop where we sort of brainstormed, and people were able to pin their prize concepts up onto the roadmap at different times. Some of these are closer to Earth, some of them are further into space. So that was great fun, and we'll keep doing that process with different groups of people, not just teams, but also experts from the industry and maybe some popular people from the media, and also people who can afford to pay the bill for those prizes as well will be part of that process. And I just want to say, since we are sort of talking about mining, one of the prize concepts, and this is just a concept, this is not an XPRIZE, okay? One of the prize concepts was a Trojan asteroid tour XPRIZE. The basic idea was to go out to the Earth, L4, L5 Lagrange points, and detect 100 Trojan asteroids of certain size, identify and characterize some subset of them, and then map with some certain resolution 2 of them. So the idea would be to have a sort of system that can, let's say, do all those things to a family of asteroids with similar orbital parameters. Just one idea for what a potential future XPRIZE might look like in space, but we're also very interested to take your suggestions on that. So with that, I just want to say please visit our website, lunarxprize.org, and follow along. Thank you very much.
Splendid. Running ahead of time. Questions?
Sir.
The approximate budget that each team is supporting as a startup. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, so the teams have also, at the same time as they report their current expenditure, they also report their foreseen total project cost. And it's, depending on which team you talk to, it's somewhere between $10 million and $100 million. I personally think the figure should be between $35 and $50 million, which is a lot, more than the prize money, but that's been proven to work in previous XPRIZEs.
So how many teams have dropped out since registration? And a follow-up question, does the total expenditures include those by teams that have since dropped out of the competition?
Second part first, yes. I believe that $60 million does include the expenditure of those teams that dropped out. At one point, we had 29 registered teams. The registration process, as you saw on that timeline, took a couple of years, and there was a registration fee. So when we finally got all of those registration fees in, we sort of said, okay, that's the official roster of teams. And so they've been dropping out one by one for various reasons. Some of them have merged in that time as well. Yes?
What's the current status of the heritage ones? Are any of the 16 teams planning on incorporating that?
Last I recall, part-time scientists, the German team, was still looking at doing that. We haven't received a detailed submission of their plans to do that. They are required to make such a submission later on, and the judging panel will also assess that plan against NASA's recommendations for protecting lunar heritage.
Are there any heritage experts on that?
One of the judges has taken on the role of coordinating those issues, but he'd be very interested to hear from any experts who might be there.
She's pitching
Like
for it.
like your question, who is an expert?
All right, look, let's leave Andrew up here, but thank you for his presentation.